We are on worksheet 3, number 6. So on each of these problems, if you're stuck, you need to be thinking through these 4 things. Are any of these 4 going to help you figure out a first step? And once you have a first step, maybe they'll help you figure out a second step and keep going. So I right away noticed that I have fractions, which means I probably want to find a common denominator for these fractions. Also, I do see that I have something squared with a 1, which also makes me think of Pythagorean identities. My only issue, though, is that this, the 1 minus tangent squared, is not an identity. So I have tangent squared plus 1 is secant squared, but not a 1 minus tangent squared. And then, same thing over here, 1 minus cotangent squared. I don't have a 1 minus cotangent squared. I have 1 plus cotangent squared. So sometimes they look like they might be Pythagorean identities, but just because they have a 1 and something squared, you make sure you check. I also see that these are difference of squares, but difference of squares isn't going to help me a lot right now. So we're going to find common denominator, which means I'm just going to have to multiply these 2 together. So my common denominator is going to be 1 minus tangent squared theta times 1 minus cotangent squared theta. This term over here was missing this part of the common denominator, so I need to multiply 1 times 1 minus cotangent squared, so this part is 1 minus cotangent squared theta. This piece over here was missing this part, so I'm going to multiply it by 1 minus tangent squared theta. Alright, now my next step would be to actually multiply these out. So you can FOIL it, you can box method, but the top is going to stay the same, other than I have a 1 plus 1, which is 2. So I'm going to combine those. Minus cotangent squared theta minus tangent squared theta. So multiplying this out, I get 1. My middle term, I'm going to have 1 times negative cotangent squared theta, so negative, and then I'm going to have negative tangent squared times 1.
Please come to the front office. Adira, Benner, quasi.
And then these 2 together are going to make positive tangent squared theta cotangent squared theta. So again, that's just FOILing or boxing, however you're going to multiply it out. So right away down here, I see I have function is reciprocal. That's 1. So I can replace that with a 1. Now what I notice is the top is 2 minus cotangent squared theta minus tangent squared theta. On the bottom, I have these like terms now. 1 plus 1 is 2. I also have minus cotangent squared theta minus tangent squared theta. They are exactly the same, right? We said there's imaginary parentheses, but it is exactly the same, and so we don't cancel individual terms. We are canceling this whole thing with that whole thing. It's not the 2 with the 2 and the cotangent squared with the cotangent squared. It is the entire term here with the entire expression here with the entire expression down here, because they are exactly the same. So again, my slash mark is going through the whole thing. I am not individually canceling little pieces of it. It's because the whole thing is the same, so I get 1. Make sure that you know that it leaves 1, right? I have some people that put 0 for this. It's like 5 divided by 5 is not 0. 5 divided by 5 is 1. Same thing divided by same thing is 1.